Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, this is Calistopheles, and we all know that E3 is an event full of empty promises and obnoxious dick teasers. Nevertheless, it is also an event which brings us news regarding the upcoming titles on which we can start spending our hard-earned cash upon. Well, this year's E3 is now behind us, and here are my top picks from the E3 2018. The announcements which piqued my interest as a PC gamer. So I'll skip the likes of The Last of Us 2 simply due to the fact that it will probably never be released on a PC platform. Hence, it doesn't really fit the bill. Also, I will probably skip a lot of stuff which mainstream gamers like nowadays, such as another Call of Duty game or Battlefield whatever. This will just be an overview of my personal interest and some negative rambling thrown into the mix for the good measure, so your mileage will probably vary by a lot, and you might not agree with these picks. This is going to be a long one, so pause the video, go grab a beer, coffee, cola or whatever makes you happy and enjoy. Bethesda Softworks is up first, because it just is. This year's Bethesda Softworks' presentation was probably one of the most anticipated keynotes of the whole E3, and that mainly due to the hype surrounding the Fallout 76. Was it announced? Yes. We'll get back to that soon enough, but first, Doom. Doom Eternal was announced with a tiny teaser and a familiar soundtrack. They said that it will be a standalone game and not just another DLC for the 2016 release, which was really good to hear, as I was initially afraid that it might be released as an expansion pack to 2016's Doom. Unfortunately though, they did not showcase any of the gameplay, as they are holding the content back for the QuakeCon later this year. I guess we'll just have to keep our eyes and ears open. Moving on to Prey. Looks like Prey received a big update with the new game modes in the day of the E3, and you should also have it by now. But what's even bigger news, that there will be a DLC called Moon Crash later this year, which will essentially be a replayable short story taking place on the moon, where your only general objective is to escape the moon whatever it takes. It's said that the loot, enemies and hazards will be randomly generated for each playthrough, thus increasing the replayability of the game, which is a nice touch. Though I'm not sure would I personally play through it multiple times, as the world itself will remain the same. And that's not all. There will also be a new multiplayer mode released later this year called Typhoon Hunter, which is essentially a hide-and-seek game Prey style. 6 players in the game, one of them being the hunter and 5 others being mimics able to mimic any household item. This is definitely something to keep an eye out and promises to be a lot of fun. Now, before we get to the Fallout 76, Bethesda surprised me with a hilarious commercial during their presentation. Yes, a commercial. In case you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll leave the link in the description below, and I strongly urge you to take a look at it. It is really that good. But now, yeah, Fallout 76, it was announced indeed. But all is not as well as one might expect it to be. Let's get the good sides out of the way first. It is 4 times the size of Fallout 4, which sounds excellent. The theme song, Country Roads, is extremely catchy and perfect candidate for the theme song. The graphics look rather stunning, colorful, vibrant and detailed. I just hope that they won't nerf the graphics just before the release, as has happened to a lot of games presented over the years in E3. Also, the building mechanic from Fallout 4 returns, and this time you don't just get mini nukes via Fatboard, but also bigger nukes to play around with. And now for the downside of this. It will be released as an online-only title, where you could theoretically play alone, but are strongly recommended not to do so. So that raises some questions. Will it be a loot box hell? Will they ditch the VAT system? Luckily though, there won't be hundreds of people online at the same time on the same server, breaking the post-apocalyptic immersion. Rather, they say that the limit will be set to 12, so think of it as you will. The release date has been announced to be the 14th of November this year, and there will also be a closed beta soon, so expect YouTube to be filled with beta content soon enough. Moving on to the Sony's press conference this year. Given that they present everything PlayStation related, there aren't many things to talk about in regards to PC gaming, but there are still a few entries which caught my eye. Firstly, Control. Now, this is not about the game, but the concept looks really interesting and promising. You seem to be able to bend time and physics to your will. Well, to a degree of course. And the general gameplay seems to follow the modern third-person shooters. I won't be very sad if it never reaches the PC platform, but I shall keep an eye on this one for sure. Then there was Resident Evil 2, the remake. Now, this seems to be a bit more than just a remake, to be honest, as a lot of it has been changed. The tank controls and static camera angles have been ditched in favor of more modern Resident Evil 4 style of over-the-shoulder third-person camera and controls. I kind of feel sad about it, as I really like those old control schemes, somewhat due to their clumsiness, to be honest, as it adds a layer of helplessness to the overall feeling of the game, and when the camera is done right, it managed to create a perfect horror atmosphere alongside with it. However, that being said, I don't think it was a wrong move to change the gameplay that way, as the graphics do look stunning for a Resident Evil game. Also, they have ditched all the cheesy voice lines and hired some proper actors this time around, so it promises to be a rather bone-chilling experience from which I surely will take part of. Resident Evil 2 Remake is due to be released on the 25th of January 2019. And finally, then there was Death Stranding. I still cannot believe how far the 3D computer graphics have come from the birth of OpenGL and early DirectX releases. Now, graphics don't mean anything without proper gameplay. However, I cannot help myself just stare at this game's attention to detail. It is simply amazing. The story seems to get darker and darker with every bit of information released regarding the game, so that's something definitely down my alley for sure. The only issue that I have with Death Stranding is that Kojima Productions has not confirmed or overruled yet whether they are actually planning a PC release or not. I surely hope that they do, but then again, what else can one do but hope? Moving on to the Microsoft Xbox's conference, we'll start things off by skipping a title list. Some titles in E3 tend to overlap the stages from time to time. This time it started off with Fallout 76, which I already talked about, so next, the awesome adventure of Captain Spirit was announced. It's a prequel to Life is Strange 2. It looks weird, and not much is known of it, however, it is said that the choices made in the game would carry over to Life is Strange 2, which is nice. Also, as Life is Strange was ported to Linux by Feral Interactive, there is a high possibility of both Captain Spirit and Life is Strange 2 finding their way onto the platform as well. The release date is set as June 26th this year, and the game will be free to play. Then Artyom makes his return in the Metro series with Metro Exodus, to be released also on the PC platform as expected. Graphics look awesome as usual, and hopefully the gameplay will follow the same line as the previous Metro games. In any case, it is worth giving a follow on Steam. Now, Microsoft Studios also bragged about acquiring many new game development studios under their behemoth of a company. More specifically, the following development studios were announced to join up with Microsoft Studios. The Undead Labs, who are known for their open-world zombie apocalypse game series, The State of Decay. Playground Games, known for developing Forza Horizon series. Well, no wonder Microsoft purchased them. To be honest, I was kinda surprised that they haven't done it already, given how big the Forza franchise is on the Xbox. Ninja Theory, mostly known for their latest DMC, Devil May Cry, and Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice games. And last but not least, Compulsion Games, the developers behind We Happy Few. Only time will tell whether the acquired companies are allowed to keep their creative independence or are forced down a loot box tube similar to what EA does nowadays. After the acquisitions, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider was also shown off with a single trailer, but more on that on Square Enix's section later, as there they showed a bit more of the game. Tunic was also announced, which seems to be heavily inspired by the old Zelda adventure games, sporting an isometric camera angle and the combat style similar to Zelda's Link to the Past. The art direction is definitely on the clear and cute side. Gears of War also making a return with Gears 5. This time around, game seems to have more of an adventure vibe to it, based on the trailers shown, hence it kinda caught my interest. I haven't played a Gears game since the very first game on the PC, which was buggy as hell, but I might just give this one a try, due to the storyline. And then there was Cyberpunk 2077. Developed by CD Projekt Red, it is one of the most anticipated games on my list, for the very same reason. CD Projekt Red and their attention to detail and the quality of their products they put out. The unfortunate part of the presentation was that there are still no absolute release dates confirmed, nor did they even show a bit of actual gameplay. Everything shown was still just cinematics composing a trailer, so we'll just have to wait and see when they decide to disclose some of that juicy gameplay so we'd get a better understanding of how the game would actually start playing out. At the moment though, it is still just a hype train full of cinematic trailers and images though. Moving on to Ubisoft's conference. Luckily this one will be rather short, as I didn't find many games which I was actually interested in. The game which I did find interesting was Transference, which was a really weird game at first glance. It is said to be a psychological thriller, which is to bridge a gap between movies and games. The last time I heard a statement like that was when I tried one of the good old DOS titles featuring FMV cutscenes, and we all know what the quality experience that was. Anyways, it is something interesting, refreshing, weird, and somewhat new. It is set to be released this fall without a specific release date. Onwards to the PC Gaming Show, which is more of an E3's re-show than an actual press conference. So let's take a look at what we can expect to see in the future. Hunt Showdown was promoted, which is actually an early access and playable today. It is a competitive first-person PvP shooter with a bounty mechanism from the creators of Crysis. What sets it apart is the game mode, which could probably be explained with something along the lines of every match starts off with teams of 2 players going after specific NPC monsters. Once a team kills a designated target, a bounty is put on the player's back and they will become the hunted for the remaining players on the map. Interesting concept, we'll have to try it out someday. The Sinking City. It takes place in the flooding city of Oakmont, Massachusetts, as you assume the role of a private investigator trying to find the source of the disaster, only to discover that something is controlling the minds of its residents. It is an open-world mystery adventure game with what is seemingly a really nice dark atmosphere inspired by H.P. Lovecraft. What I liked especially about the presentation is that the developers claimed that there will be little to no hand-holding in regards to the story direction in the game, meaning that you will not have a silly markers on your map telling you what to do and where to go. Rather, one would need to use, his actual own brain in order to proceed, which is like a breath of fresh gameplay air. Then there was 2 Point Hospital. Okay, now we're getting to the really good stuff. Who doesn't remember the good old theme hospital with all the wackiness that it brought? Well, 2 Point Hospital is essentially a spiritual successor to the theme hospital, and it proudly continues the tradition of silly and hilarious diseases along with the classic mice shooting minigame. 2 Point Hospital is to be released in this fall. And finally, then there was Hitman 2. To be honest, it is just a horrible cash grab with the episodic release schedule, DLC and all the pre-orderings, which you can do actually right now already, but as unfortunate as it might sound, it is still a Hitman game, which makes it kind of a must-buy for me, as those sneaky assassination contracts are just so damn addictive. Hitman 2 will be released on November 13, 2018. Oh boy, and then there was EA. The unholy abomination of a company which sucks the life force out of any developer which it happens to come by. For EA, I'll make an exception. I will note you my best bits and also the worst, so let's go. Star Wars Battlefront 2 got announced, but sadly the loot box pay to win hell, which happened with the first trial, ruined the series for me. If they change their methodology, then I'd surely love to try it out, but I doubt it. It's still EA after all we're talking about. Then, Unravel 2. Lovely aesthetics, just like the original Unravel. This time around it's meant to be experienced as a co-op game, but can be played solo as well, though you'll always be playing with 2 characters on the screen. When playing solo, you'll kinda be picking up the second character when you're not solving puzzles, and when you do need a second character for puzzles you can simply put the other Yarny down and then freely switch between them. But the best thing is that the game is actually already released. It was released on the same day as the conference took place, which means that you can go and play the game already today. Definitely a game I will be checking out, and it's probably meant to be played with your significant other on a couch in front of a big screen TV. But we cannot end EA's conference on a positive note now, can we? Oh no. The next one was the bomb for me. Well, Command & Conquer Rivals was announced. Oh god. Another piss-poor mobile game. Instead of doing something useful with the license that they have, EA is simply taking a piss on it. I cannot believe it. They are utterly just mocking all the heritage that Westwood Studios built up in the 90s. Seriously though, the announcement made me want to simply skip the rest of the conference. It was that disgusting. Now to add even more insult to injury, they also said that they're giving players complete control over their armies, fueled by skill and strategy. Are they kidding? Is EA drunk off its ass? what are those shrooms they've been smoking? I mean, seriously, has EA even seen what the Command & Conquer franchise was back in the day when the Westwood Studios was an independent developer? Absolutely ridiculous and utter crap. But let's move on. Square Enix. Square Enix's conference, to tell you the truth, they didn't hold exactly a conference, rather just streamed a bunch of content regarding their announcements, which is a good thing as it means that there are less marketing talk and more gameplay shown off, at least one would hope so. So, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Some gameplay footage was shown, and yet again in some jungle camp killing mercenaries, no actual tomb raiding in sight. They talk about grappling, wall running, freedom to swim around like in the good old days, and tomb raiding. But none of that is shown. They only show action with weapons and stealth. Why would you do so? Graphics look okay, but the gameplay seems to remain the same as it was with the last installment. Now, personally, I wish they returned the series back to its roots, without leveling up Lara and other RPG stuff that they have nowadays. I really like the old Tomb Raider series 1 to 5, where the focus was always on the, raiding tombs, but that's just me. Hey, finding shotguns and Uzi ammo in the tombs make no sense, but it is fun. Then there was The Quiet Man. It had a really interesting concept as the main character of the game is deaf. How will it play? What is the storyline like? Not much is known yet of the game, and the teaser just promises more details to be shed on the matter in August. In a news release, Square Enix has stated that The Quiet Man takes the player beyond the sound and words to deliver an immersive story-driven cinematic action experience, which players can complete in just one sitting, seamlessly blending high-production live-action realistic CG and pulse-pounding action gameplay. Well, I don't like the sound of being able to complete it in just one single sitting, but let's see when more details are announced on this. And then there was Devolver Digital. Well. Devolver Digital's conference. What can I say? Well, they literally just took a piss at everything mainstream, and I absolutely loved it. There's really nothing further to say about it than just go and watch it yourself. I'll leave the link in the description below. It is pretty much nothing about game announcements, but just mocking everything which was stupidly relevant during the last year. So enjoy! And with that being said, those were my picks from this year's E3 conference. As said in the beginning, those were just my personal picks, so I left out a lot of games for one reason or another. If you wish to have a full list of announcements, I strongly suggest you to go and watch every keynote yourself. They're pretty good this year overall. But what was your most anticipated game of this year's E3? What new releases are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you very much for sticking around. I wish you all the best for the rest of your day, and may you have a lovely gaming experience whenever, wherever you are. Bye bye.